Morning, Rockland CSL family. Oh my gosh, I am so grateful to be here with you. You know, modern technology is not so modern right now. I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties, and all is good, all is well. Let me just take a breath right here and just be in this space with you all to take a breath and just know that there's an abundance of breath, of air, of everything that we need that's around us. And that we get to move in that direction because spirit is always guiding us in the right and perfect location, direction. And so as spirit guided me this morning, I typically don't begin with a prayer, but what spirit has guided me to do this morning is to read this prayer. And I have this book that I carry with me, and this is kind of beat up right now. It's called Your Needs Met. I keep this in my purse, and whenever it is that spirit guides me to do anything, to be in that place, to just be, I listen. So this morning, what I'm guided to do, one is to turn off my Zoom. Okay, this is still not working. I apologize this morning. I'm going to read this title or this message. So I invite you at this time to just close your eyes and just be in this space. Because when we think about abundance, it's everywhere around us. And so what this says is, and the author is Jack Addington. And what he says is that your word for good renders successful everything that you undertake. Expect success and you will find success. Your feeling of inner wealth will neutralize any suggestion of lack on the outside. God's abundance is your abundance. It flows through mind into manifestation. Know that God gives you the necessary ideas and clothes them with all that is needed to bring them into fruition. Cease struggling with outside conditions and turn to the infinite source within. The floodgates are now opened and good is poured in forth into your experience right now. Think abundance, speak abundance, be abundance, dare to give freely and receive freely. You cannot outgive God. Declare with assurance, my every act produces abundance. I dare to give freely, knowing that I cannot outgive God. As I think abundance, I demonstrate abundance to the glory of God, who lives and expresses through me. My business is God's business, and God's business is good. And so it is. So when we think about that place of abundance, of being abundance, how are you showing up? I love Jan when she did her meditation, starting from this place of gratitude. That's the whole thing. It's like being grateful because when we do our affirmative prayers, what we know is that it's already done in the mind of God. So it's already done. So we're praying from that place. So when we move from that place and operate in that place of gratitude, of knowing that it's done, when we see the manifestation show up before us, we get to celebrate. We get to give thanks in advance for whatever it is that we're calling forth. When, as we continue to move in that direction, what we know is that more and more abundance shows up for us. We don't need to go and beg for anything or try to search for anything when we know that the abundance of who we are and of the universe is already there, is already available. So we get to walk in that. Like, it's like they have these theme songs. Like somebody says, play my theme song when we walk into a room or something. When you wake up in the morning, what's your theme song? What's your abundance theme song of this is an abundant day that God has made for me. How am I showing up today? What is it that I am here to do for this day? And I even ask Spirit, it's like, show me what is it that I am to know for this day? Where am I to go and how am I to respond to those individuals that are around me if I'm going into a meeting, if I'm going into whatever work situation or even into church? How am I showing up being this abundant, whatever it is, this joy, this abundant joy that I carry, this abundant love that I have within me? How do I show that out in the world? This is that thing of being. Be love. Be the abundance that you know is within you. This has been a lesson for me. When Reverend Melissa had asked me some time ago she put me on the calendar. And I'm like, okay, Spirit, what are we working with during this time? Because it's usually whenever there's a talk, there's something that I'm moving through. And of course, this is no exception. I moved from Georgia to here back to California. And in that process, that was May. I have not fully worked because I thought when I arrived here that I was going to have the perfect employment opportunity, that something was going to show up for me right away. And that hasn't been the case. But what I know is that Spirit has been taking care of me for this time, has been creating some opportunities. I've had speaking opportunities here and there. So it's kind of like when I needed the cash to come in or something to take care of, a bill to take care of, that money showed up for me. And because it reminded me to be in this place of absolute abundance, knowing that this consciousness that I have within me, this abundance consciousness, it manifests. And I know the people that I'm speaking with, I know Rockland CSL, y'all roll like that. Y'all roll in this abundant, universe. And it's like, and I see, you know, all that you all are doing out in the world. And even for those individuals that come and speak on, it's like with you all on Sundays, and those people that come that may not have been here before, this may be their first time because they're hearing what you all are about, the abundance of how you're rolling in your abundance. And a lot of times we think about abundance in regards of with money. And the thing about it is like abundance can be abundance of time, the abundance of time that we give to our communities, the abundance of time that we give to our families or loved ones. How do we give that abundance of volunteer work? Abundance can show up in so many different ways. And when I think about where we are right now following this election that we just had, this is for me what feels like this opportunity that we need to put out an abundance of prayer for our country, knowing that the right and perfect outcome is always unfolding in the right and perfect time, in the right and perfect way. That place of being in abundance of prayer, of just knowing this. About a couple of weeks ago, I did this class with, it's a money mastery class. And one of the things that the minister kept saying to us, kept saying, it's like, make this your mantra, that there's a good for me and I ought to have it. And then she added, she said, and what's your good? So it's like, there's a good for me and I ought to have it. And my good is fill in the blank, whatever that is. And this thing that kept coming up is to have an abundant life, a life that's filled with love and joy and the ability to do the work that I'm here to do. And it's like, and to be able to walk in that space, because it's when we know this place of abundance, that we are abundant, that this is who we are, it's like we wear it as a cloak. And it's like, I am abundant because God in me is abundant. So knowing that the God in me is abundant, I know that I'm abundant. I know that you all are abundant. There is no difference between you and I. We may have different home circumstances, locations of where we live, but what I know is that who you are, each and every person that's on this call that may see this recording, you are abundant. And it's like, and I invite you to even to allow that to sink into your consciousness, into your beingness, and just say, I am abundant. And it's like, and when you say that, how does that feel in your body? Because sometimes it's when people say, I'm abundant, there may be some conversation in the back of their mind that may say, no, I'm not. But yes, you are. Because when we remember who and whose we are, we know that we are always abundant. So this has been an opportunity for me to continue to learn and relearn sometimes, or deprogram myself of old thought processes that I may have had. And what I realized is that when we're moving through this place of being abundant, that old program, when it comes up, what do we do with it? What do we do with that old program that when someone says, well, you can't have this amount of money, you can't live in this house, you can't have this car, you can't, whatever. Do we listen to that programming? Do we allow that programming, that old tape to come up and run our lives? Or do we stop it in that moment and say, I hear this tape. Back in the day when you used to have like the cassette tapes, and if it popped or something, it's like, you know what, you can cut that cassette tape and you don't have to hear that piece of it anymore because that's someone else's way of how they see you or how they saw you in that moment. They may not have seen you as abundant. They may not have seen you as prosperous. They may not have seen you as living this amazing life. But God within you did. And so I had to let go of old programming. And it still comes up, it's like an onion. When you peel a layer of an onion, you think that you've covered that surface of the onion, and the next thing you know, something else pops up. And I'm like, where did that come from? I'm like, oh, okay, what do? I go into meditation. I'll go into prayer, and I have to listen because if I allow that old programming to dictate my next move, it will take me down a place that I truly don't want to go. So I invite you, it's like when you have that old programming that may show up, that old thought process, take a moment to stop. Unless you're driving, then you can pull over on the side of the road and, go into this place of just gratitude and give thanks for the goodness that is within you, to give thanks for that opportunity to know the abundance of God that is within you. God is, I am, and all truly is well. God is abundant. I am abundant, and all is well. This is how I get to be in the world of abundance. Regardless of how things may look around us, see the abundance in everything. I just came off a vacation, and it's funny, it's like I went to the beaches in Texas. There's a place there, it's called South Padre Island. And I went to the beach there, and as I walked the beach, to see the abundance of the sand that was there that I was walking on. It was miles and miles and miles of sand. And then in between, you see some of the seashells and, it's like all the little things that are within the sand. And it made me remember how abundant the universe is, to see the abundance all around me. As I'm sitting there watching the water as it's coming in and the waves, it's like the abundance of waves that were coming in and then going back out. That gave me that opportunity for those places where I may have felt some doubt or fear or some concern about what's coming next, that I was able to throw that out into the water and to send it out. And then on the return, coming in, that abundance of God was coming and washing over me. This is a time for all of us to be able to share the abundance that we have. And it's not just sharing money, but it's sharing the abundance of ideas that you may have, the abundance of skill sets that you may have with the world. We have been so programmed sometimes to follow other people's instructions. When we work jobs, your boss says, I need you to do this, this, and this, and you have to do it in this particular order. And then as you're working a project, you kind of realize that there's another way to do it. And then do I go against my boss or do I do what I feel or led to do? Because those are the abundance of ideas that spirit gives us. And sometimes we can take those ideas and go to our boss and say, hey, boss, it's like I had this idea that came to me that we can do this project this way, and it will save us time and become more effective. Can we try it? And it could be a yes or no, but it's being open to the abundance of information that comes to us. And how do we use that abundance of information? Sometimes when we get these ideas of what is it that I am to do in this right now moment, and when we listen in that stillness, there's an answer that may show up. And sometimes that answer that shows up for you may go out to a couple other people. And you may call somebody up and say, hey, I got this idea for, to do this book project or to create this workshop or whatever. And that person you're talking to say, you know what? I had the same feeling. And I was wondering what to do with it. That's that abundance of information that goes out into the universe. And we catch it. And we can either run with it or we sit with it. And it's up to us. But how many times have you seen? I'm looking now, since the pandemic, we have such an abundance of podcasts, programs, and stuff that are out there right now that we have never had before COVID. And now it's like, seem like everyone is creating podcasts or, ways to create money online on YouTube. People that may have been afraid to be in front of the camera or even to be afraid to talk to other people have an opportunity to create podcasts right now, to create so many different ideas of how to reach other people. That's the abundance of the universe that comes to us, creating this abundance of opportunities to share with the world. And I think about now there are, since I travel, it's like, the abundance of restaurants that we have a choice that we get to go to if we choose to. We go into a grocery store, there's abundance of food that's around us. Abundance is all around us. And when we step into that place of gratitude with the abundance of God that's all around us, knowing that that abundance is within me, it just feels like an opportunity to just celebrate. And I grew up in Baptist church, and some of you, it's like you may have been in Pentecostal Baptist churches and other communities. And what I remember is that, you remember when the music starts going and it's like, and you're standing there and you're clapping and everything, and it's all of a sudden, it's like people just start feeling that abundance of God, that love of God that's overtaking them. And they just start just jumping and shouting and running around the church and stuff. I used to watch my cousin do that sometimes. And it's like, because that's the abundance of spirit that's within us that hit her in that moment. And she just was in this place of just rejoicing. That's how it is when, it's like it could be when we wake up in the morning, that we do this abundance dance, that we get up in the morning and says, thank you, God, for this brand new day, this abundance of that I've had sleep, even if it's only 2 hours of sleep that I was able to get. But I've had this sleep to allow my body to rest and to be able to walk into something new that I've not done on this day yet. I give thanks for that, to do this happy dance, this abundance, because that's what it feels like. It's like, oh man, hold up, wait a minute. Yes. And then sometimes, like, when we have that opportunity that we wake up in the morning, because we could jump up out of bed and then you get a phone call or something, or a text message that comes through, and something that tells you, don't answer the phone yet, don't check that text message yet, but you go and do it anyway. And in that message or that phone call could shift that abundance. Take that opportunity to remember that abundance of the phone call that came through, that you have an abundance of people that are reaching out to you, be it whether it's maybe not so good news or good news, but just giving thanks for the phone call, giving thanks for the text message. And what we choose to do with the phone call or the message is up to us. How we choose to respond to it is up to us. And that's the abundance that's around us. How we choose to respond to the abundance is up to us. We can walk around in this place of, I don't have enough, I don't have this, I can't do this. That negates that abundance that we have, because we may not know exactly how to do this specific job. But then we have to ask, because there's an abundance of information. There's so much information out there that can show us how to do anything. I had this situation with my car that my microphone on my phone wasn't connecting. I went to Professor YouTube, because there's an abundance of information out there, and it says, how do I realign my phone with my speaker in my car? And it told me people did programs that said, this is what you need to do to, disconnect your battery and then reconnect it again. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't know, because my car is is electric, not electric car, but the electrical stuff that's in it. If I disconnect the battery, is it going to, do I have to reset everything? I was like, nah, I'll let the mechanics handle it. Well, they couldn't handle it. But what I know is that when I came back from my vacation, my car sat for about a week, and here it got a little cold. And I went to go try to start my car, but it was taking forever to start up, but then eventually it did. But then when I realized that if something happened with the battery, it reset my car. So my phone was able to connect to my dash. And so all of that, Spirit took care of all of that for me without me even taking it back or having to redo my or undo my battery. But what it tells me is that there's so much information out there in the world. There's abundance of information. All we need to do is tap into it. There's an abundance of good that's here for us, and we can use it. That's what Ernest Holmes tells us, that there's an abundance for good, and we get to use it. How are you using that abundance for good? How are you sharing that abundance for good? Even when we come to services like this, are you sharing with those that are around you the abundance of good information that you get from the Sunday services or from all the other activities that happens within your community? Because this is good that's happening in the world. And I with Reverend Melissa, she's out traveling. It's like I've been seeing some of her stuff on Facebook and everything, and I know the people that she's traveling with, and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing opportunity to share the abundance of good that they're experiencing with Facebook, with their friends and family, because not there's not just abundance in New York, in California, and wherever. There's an abundance of good all over the world. And we get to experience that if we choose to. I am so grateful for this time because it just reminds me of the abundance of God, of me, of who I am. In those times when I think that I don't have enough or I can't, and then I have to stop myself and say, wait a minute, what road am I going down? Let me stop this. Because yes, I can. Spirit, show me what it is that I need to know in this moment. Show me what it is that I'm to do in this moment. How do I show up as the abundance of God in this moment? And sometimes I could be walking down the street somewhere or going to the store or walking in. And I've been in grocery stores sometimes and I've seen people that are, I call them height challenged. I don't call them short, they're height challenged. I'm a little bit taller. And I see them kind of struggling trying to get something. So I just happen to be going down the aisle and said, you want me to grab that for you? And he's like, yes, please. So I have the abundance of height that I can, reach stuff up on the top shelf to be able to support others in trying to reach something. So I'm just grateful for this abundance, this opportunity to be able to spend with you and to know that there is truly always abundance all around us. We get to step into that. We get to enjoy this. We get to give thanks for this abundance. And it's like, and I invite you to do the same. It's like even as we're driving along the freeways and going to different places, we see all these cars and stuff that are out there, that there are an abundance of cars that are around us, and that means an abundance of drivers. And maybe not all of them drive with the most same thought process or ideas, because sometimes people weave in and out. But we give thanks for the abundance of the brakes that we have in our car that allow us to stop, the abundance that we of people that we get to see and interact with and even pray for as we're out and about. How do we use our abundance? How do we show up as abundant? We as practitioners and ministers, we know that we've been trained in so many different ways of how to utilize that power of prayer. So there's an abundance of opportunities to pray. I remember years ago, Reverend Michael Beckwith had said, when you watch the news, allow that to be an opportunity for prayer. So if you're watching the news, there should be abundance of prayers that are going out into the world right now, not just in our cities and states, but around the world, because there's so much stuff that's happening that we get to say a prayer for the goodness, for the divine unfolding of every situation. And as we gather together in prayer, as you pray, I pray, the other person prays, that goes out into the universe and it is making a difference. Having that abundance consciousness allows us to live a life that is fulfilling. And I think about, and I've read, some people that are in third world countries, some indigenous people that are in their lands, that they have so much abundance for abundance of the people that are there, that they get to go into nature and pick fruits and whatever it is that they're needing off of the trees that are right there with them. That there's an abundance all around them. They have this abundance of their families that's there with them. And in this place, they are joyful. They celebrate the goodness that is there with them. So the next time that you think about wanting to complain about a situation, think about what's the abundance of God that is moving through you to allow you to see something different, to know something different. The abundance, being that abundant being, that spiritual being that we are, we get to take our abundance, our prayer out into the world. I think sometimes when we walk, think of that those steps that we're taking, that we're walking on holy ground. That people have these counters that they measure how many steps they take on a daily basis. People have 10,000 steps, 20,000 steps. Those are abundance of movement that we've allowed our bodies to do. There are so many opportunities to have that abundance consciousness to show up as abundant. We just keep allowing spirit to keep sending us information. We tap into that within us and we follow those instructions. I do anyway. That's what I offer. And I know so many of you, you listen to that inner voice. And so in this time of listening to this inner voice, this takes me into this opportunity to do prayer. And just knowing and giving thanks for this time that we have come here together. Giving thanks for each and every one of you that is here on this call with us right here and right now. I give thanks for the goodness of God that is moving and having its way in each one of us. That the abundance of God is circulating through everything that we do, everything that we have, everything that we see and hear. That the abundance of God is within me, is within you, is within each one of us because we are one. I am, you are, and all is well. That's the Ubuntu as well. So that abundance that we take in, that we hold on to and open our arms to receive every day, every moment. When we remind ourselves that the abundance of God is me, it is you, it is everything, everyone. We go to this place of gratitude, absolute gratitude for the good that is unfolding, absolute gratitude for the divine ideas, absolute gratitude for the money that comes in, the job opportunities that come in, because there are abundance of jobs, opportunities that are available if we listen and follow those instructions, that we see the abundance, we know the abundance, we experience it in ways that we can't even imagine. I'm grateful for this time, for this opportunity to be with the abundance of consciousness that's here at Rockland CSL and with all of the individuals that are here on this line right now. I am grateful for this abundance of being able to wake up this morning and to have made steps and to have a place that I get to come and have this conversation with this amazing community. See the abundance when you wake up. When we get up, when you're complete with service for the day, what is it that you can have abundance for? Be in that space of abundance of gas in the car, a car to drive, food to eat, bed to sleep in, that there are so many beds that have been made that there's one specifically for you. The abundance of homes and living spaces. And although we know that we live in a world where there is homelessness or houselessness that is happening, what we know is that there is an abundance of good for each and every individual that we encounter. So I just give thanks for this time that we have come here together, right here, right now, knowing that all truly is unfolded in perfect and divine order. Knowing that this prayer that I've spoken, that it goes out into the universe and that it cannot return to me void, that it is doing exactly what it is that I have called forth to do, and that Spirit is doing its work, because what I know is that the what is ours, the how is Spirit, So I'm allowing Spirit to do the how. I'm grateful for the continued abundance that continues to show up for each one of us right here, right now. And I just anchor this prayer within so it is. Blessed be.